It's showtime.
Okay, Tokyo, South America, Australia, Germany, Africa.
Here we go. Head on with Bob Kincaid. 3 hours of conversation, cussing, and a discussin' with America's only born and bred Southern liberal talk host. Head on with Bob Kincaid is brought to you each night by Coal River Mountain Watch. Coal River Mountain Watch invites you to become part of the solution, part of a sustainable future, part of the uprising against mountaintop removal. Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. And now, from high in the hills of beautiful West Bicod, Virginia, here's Bob Kincaid on the Head On Radio Network.
Well, howdy. And here we are, off and running for this 19th day of February 2020. This is the Horn. Headon.live is where you'll find us on the interweb tubes. Right over there. Just there it is. Headon.live. And well, a lot of things happen over there. Among other things, it's your best one-stop shop for the podcast version of this live program. Featuring many, if not all, the possible platforms you could possibly want. It's also where we keep the merry, madcap, wacky, zany, real-time multimedia extravaganza that is the Horn chat room. If you've never done it before, just pick yourself out a screen name and a password and jump right into the conversation. I'm headed there right now myself. And early arrivers Anatole and Squeaky await you. Got in just in time to get on the air this evening. Berg's fine. There was absolutely nothing remarkable. So that's a good thing. Yeah. Oh, well. So he's kind of just letting the milk of amnesia wear off. And hopefully he should be right as rain by tomorrow. Also over at headon.live, you'll find the Magic Contribute tab. And that's how we help keep the program on the air. Turns out the 19th day of the month is, in fact, now the loneliest day of the month for subscribers here at the Horn. We'd love to have some new subscribers because, well, we've only got one for the 19th day of the month. And thank you very kindly to Sharon for making sure that the 19th day of the month is not a total blank. Thank you so much, Sharon. And I don't know, maybe some folks would like to jump in and be subscribers on the 19th day of the month and help keep you a little bit company on this day. Our fundraising goal, $370. $370 for today to catch up with yet. And if everything works out, if we raise that and then we do tomorrow's fundraising goal, we could have a fundraising free Friday on the front porch, and that would be a lovely, lovely thing. So if you'd like to help out, go to headon.live, click on that contribute tab, and it's easy as can be after that. There's a bar there, a gray bar, that shows you what the fundraising goal is. If you click on that, then all of your choices then apply, If you'd like to be a subscriber, well, there's a box there that you can click that says make this donation monthly. And bang, there you go. You'll be off and running, and you'll be a brand new subscriber. And remember, a $10 subscriber to the Horn is setting themselves back about 2 1/3 sticks of chewing gum out of a 5-stick pack for every program. For every program. Not quite 2.5 sticks of gum. And so that's how that works. It is, of course, Prayer Meetin' Wednesday on the Horn. Albert says headon.live is not working. Sure seems to be working on this end. I don't know. But we'll try to. It may take it may be a matter of internet latency. I honestly don't know. But so that's where we are, and of course it's Prayer Meetin' Wednesday, like I said, and the little old blue-haired ladies down there in the Fellowship Hall kitchen knew that they had to set aside a dinner for me in one of those little compostable, because we're very, very, very environmentally conscious at the Cathedral of Common Sense. Those little compostable to-go boxes. And I'll probably reheat it after the program because I didn't have a chance to get after it, but the deacons did. And it's a good thing I got a to-go box, because otherwise I would have gotten nothing. Because you know how it is with deacons. I saw a story earlier today about how I think in parts of the eastern portion of the continent of Africa, they are beset. Okay, thank you. Good. Both Steve and in New York and Robert in Australia and Brother Deacon Asa all say that headon.live is running fine. So that takes a great weight off my mind. But anyway, portions of East Africa, the countries in East Africa, are beset by locust swarms the size of cities. Mm-hmm. I actually saw it on Agnes's phone, and for a minute there all I saw was the sea, and I was like, what? Locusts the size of cats? Jesus! But no, locust swarms the size of cities, and that's a little bit like feeding the deacons. And the little old blue-haired ladies, they iron skillet fried chicken today. Oh, and I hated missing it when it was hot and fresh out of the fat like that. Oh, and it gets that nice little slightly carbonized on the flour, and the oil at the skillet, and it's so good, so good. They had homemade pickles to set beside the chicken. Oh yes, yeah, and they had a mixed vegetable medley, because we can't just be. But there were also mashed potatoes. You can't keep the little old blue-haired ladies in the Cathedral of Common Sense from mashing potatoes. No, heavens no. So, the vegetable medley, mashed potatoes, and then the best part of iron skillet frying chicken like that is that you deglaze the pan, and oh my heavenly days, the wonder that is that beautiful, beautiful fried chicken gravy, and hit it with the salt and the pepper, and put it on those mashed potatoes. Dadgummit! Oh, it was so good, and I can smell it, and I know I'm not going to get to it till after the program. Thank you very kindly. Laborman says headon.live is Lima Charlie here. Good. So the streams are okay at least until Frontier decides to fuck everything up, because bankrupt, because not really surprised they're bankrupt. And anyway, but the deacons went after, and they're not particular, thighs, legs, wings, breast. They don't care, and the the bone. They pick the bones so clean. They're so shiny that you could leave them out, and the crows and the buzzards won't even touch them. There's just no value to be had there. Of course, we don't do that because we don't want the little strays and everything getting them and having problems with them. You don't give critters chicken bones. No, you don't. Yeah, what's that? Steve in New York says, locust swarms the size of cities. Any reports of a guy named Moses spotted? Any blood on doorposts? Hey, not that I saw in the report, but damn, there were a bunch of them. Just like there's and they can do every bit as much damage as a bunch of cathedral deacons, because the deacons wiped out the chicken, the deacons wiped out everything, and then they went over and they hit that icebox cheesecake stuff. It's not really cheesecake, but it's awfully good, and it's got cream cheese and lemon Jello and a graham cracker crust, and you set it up in the refrigerator, and it's cool and delightful. And oh, they did. I didn't get any of that. The little old blue-haired ladies told me that, they try, but they can only go so far, So they went on up afterwards, full of both chicken and themselves, and stood out in the parking lot smoking with the sinners. Hey, buddy, you got a light? But eventually, Sister Carol Baker showed up at the vestibule door with the cathedral solar-powered cattle prod, and gave it a couple of waves, and they grudgingly began to put bodies in motion. And they wandered through the vestibule door and thundered through the vestibule itself, past that desiccating bowl of buttermints. And they're down front now, even as I speak. They're down front. They've got the heavy velvet-lined, brass-bound collection plates in hand, and they're about as close as they'll ever get to being eager to do anything. They're getting ready to fan out into the congregation and begin passing the plates along. They got the little PayPal button all charged up in the middle. It works by Wi-Fi. So, the pass it, take it, push the button, pass it, and, just keep an eye out to make sure that you don't get a closed head injury by having your neighbor pass it with every head bowed and every eye closed right into your noggin. Whatever it is that's up there or down there or around wherever is not going to mind if you keep an eye cracked open during the offertory hymn. So, brethren and sisters, let's call up the minister of music and get all this going like it ought to go. And hopefully we'll just keep the deacons circulating, and maybe we'll be finished with that 370 by the time the program's over this evening.
And he said, it's time for you to leave behind the things of this world. The fine houses, the fancy cars, the flashy clothes, because we are all naked in the eyes of the Lord. Stop! This man is clinically insane!
Ladies and gentlemen, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, let me hear you say, Amen. Amen. Let me hear you say, Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Let me hear you say, I will empty the contents of my wallet into that little collection plate when it comes around. I will empty the contents of my wallet into that little plate when it comes around. And it's all tax-free. Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Praise the Lord for all the cash I've got. Praise Him for my Rolls Royce and my yacht. Serving God ain't hard with a credit card. Jesus died so I could make a lot. Praise the Lord, He's made us millionaires. Wave your donations in the air. We've replaced our hymns with ATMs, and soon we'll charge a fee on every prayer. Jesus Christ was a poor man, don't you know? He should have used our accountants for his cash flow. Stop the Sermon on the Mount, he should have had a bank account. 2,000 years with interest, he'd be rolling in the dough. Praise the Lord, this song's out on CD, just $40.95 plus GST. Hallelujah, plenty of moolah, solid gold baubles on my Christmas tree. I got all of heaven's riches, thanks to all you stupid bitches. Praise the Lord for modern Christianity, yeah. Whoever said religion should be free?
Oh, maresy dotes and dozy dotes and little lambsy divey, a kiddly divey too. Wouldn't you? Oh, glory, wouldn't you? Amen, amen. Brethren and sisters, I'm a-calling on you right now, amen, hallelujah, to get up off of your seats and onto your feet. And I'm calling on you to wiggle and waggle and waddle and scrunch and screech so as not to leave anything behind in the pews. Walk without rhythm so you won't attract the worms, and come on down that blood-red aisle, brethren and sisters, and fall upon your knees at the altar, and lay your hands upon the subwoofer and feel the healing rays of common sense flowing through you from the server on high. I am Archpope, Uber Rabbi, Ultimate Imam, Animated Animist, Antagonized Agnostic, Vicarious Vicar, Maximum Metropolitan, Munificent Mullah, Good-Hearted Guru, Badass Buddha, Bob Kincaid, and this is the Cathedral of Common Sense Prayer Meeting Wednesday on the Horn. Amen and amen. Yes, indeed, indeed. Brethren and sisters, you know, there's a Bible verse out there that says, put on the armor of the Lord. And gird up your loins. Well, brethren and sisters, we have here a story about a pastor brother reverend goes by the name of Checkers. He's down in Louisiana, Stan. Christopher Checkers Williams is. He's the lead pastor at the Renew Church in Baton Rouge. And that's where he shepherds his flock. Well, it wasn't too long back, last week as a matter of fact, that he decided to put on the armor of the Lord there. And when he done so, I reckon the Lord God Almighty gave him orders to do this. He was out on the road, you know, just like Saul out on the road to Damascus. You know, if Saul on the road to Damascus had access to firearms, that is. Interstate 10 runs through Florida, Tallahassee, through the Panhandle, and Pensacola over through Baldwin County, Alabama, and through Mobile, and over into Mississippi, and Pascagoula, and past Christiane, and places like that, and it goes up, it leads you into New Orleans, and then leaving New Orleans, it bends a little bit up to the northwest and takes you through Baton Rouge. And it was on Interstate 10 in St. James Parish, Louisiana, where, having put on the armor of the Lord, Christopher Checkers Williams, in the name of Jesus, took out his freedom protector and squeezed off around at another motorist. Because God is love, y'all. Yeah. He's had a long and, well, I don't know necessarily checkered past as a preacher, pastor, brother, minister. He was 6 years the pastor of Celebration Church in La Place, Louisiana. But it was a road rage incident, and brother, pastor, minister Checkers fired his freedom protector at a semi-tractor trailer near the Gramercy exit on I-10. He was driving erratically, according to the individual operating the semi-tractor trailer. He caused a minor crash. Then he pulled out his freedom protector and squeezed off around at the tractor trailer. And hit the front of the trailer, so he can hit the broad side of a barn. You understand? And not being quite as forgiving as sweet little fake baby Jesus, the local authorities charged him with aggravated assault with a firearm, aggravated criminal damage to property, illegal carrying and discharge of weapons, and reckless operation, one presumes, of the motor vehicle. Although, because I can't imagine Louisiana Stan having a law about recklessly operating a firearm. He was booked and charged, and then let out on bail. Yeah. Back in 2017, he was interviewed, and he said, every person needs to be treated with dignity, respect, and with love and compassion, regardless of their race, ethnicity, their socioeconomic status, religious background, or political affiliations. I started out being a street preacher, and I started doing anything and everything I could to take every opportunity to reach people for the gospel. You know, it says there in the book, judge not that you be not judged, but it's hard to figure out how squeezing off around at one of God's children operating a semi-tractor trailer is doing everything and anything he could to take every opportunity to reach people for the gospel. Phone calls to his current church, Renew Church, there in Baton Rouge. Someone who wouldn't identify themselves said, the matter's being handled internally by the church. Don't use my name. And he's lawyered up, and his lawyers told him to keep his mouth shut. And this will be the ultimate test of pastor, brother, minister Checkers to see if he can actually follow good legal advice like that. Don't say nothing about it. Don't talk about it. Don't make my job harder than what it is. We don't know if he'd been into the communion wine or if the dear Lord Jesus had maybe turned some water into something even sturdier. But I guess the Lord moves in mysterious ways, and kept anybody from being homicided by the follower of the Prince of Peace. Yeah. Meanwhile, don't go looking for the website because, you can't find their Facebook page right now. And the website is, it's got a message on it saying, under routine management. Or, I'm sorry, maintenance. under routine maintenance. So you can't go to their link for giving or their history or their about page or the creepily named Renew Kids. No. Yeah. Under routine maintenance. We'll be back shortly. Oh, well. Meanwhile, you may not have known this, but Kentucky Stan is not the only state with a Jesus-y theme park. No. Well, they may be soon. You may recall the story a while back, and it's all been a very quite tawdry mess. Because the Ark experience, well, they started out by sucking off the public teat and getting Kentucky money from Kentucky taxpayers, even the atheists, to run the Dodge. Then the Ark, because the goddess of irony is a careful and observant goddess. Sent them a sign by damaging their bullshit Ark with a flood. And they're just kind of trundling along because for some reason or another, people don't find it too particularly interesting to go and visit. Like I said, they may be the only one, because there's another one in Florida, run by Trinity Broadcasting Network, called the Holy Land Experience. Dirt, grime, heat, filth, Bronze Age technology. By April 18th, the Holy Land Experience is probably going to lay off just about everybody that works for them. Yeah, they're going belly up. Including all their actors. They're Mary, out of work, on the streets. Joseph, better work on those carpentry skills, bud. They're Jesus. Nope, he's out of work too. They say they're going to move away from entertainment. I don't think it was very entertaining to begin with, but whatever. Can you imagine what it must feel like to fire Jesus? Yeah. So, somewhere in Florida, Jesus is going to be filing for unemployment. How about that? Yeah. Looks like we're going to have to sacrifice another batch of rubber chickens to the goddess of irony. Maybe this evening, long about midnight. And we have our fun, but then there are other stories out there that are of a more serious nature. And this is one of those that it's got there's some good to it and there's some bad to it. We'll deal with the bad first. Out in the Washington state, there's one of those tax-free religious school dodges called Kennedy Catholic High School, just outside Seattle. And in a move that was utterly unsurprising, the folks who run Kennedy Catholic High School fired 2 teachers there. There was nothing to suggest that they weren't good teachers, but what they were was involved in, gasp, same-sex relationships. Yep. The 2 teachers were both quite popular, Paul Danforth and Michelle Beatty, and they were not, I mean, it's a Catholic school, so it's not unsurprising to find children being sexually abused in a Catholic school, or a Catholic anything for that matter, or a religious anything, up to and including the Boy Scouts. But that wasn't the case, because, among other things, Paul Danforth is not a priest, and Michelle Beatty can't be one, being she's got all those woman parts, and can't have none of them being priests. So the administration of the school just told the parents an outright lie. One of those things Jesus doesn't much approve of, but they did it anyway because, well, it's not about the religion, it's about the money. They said they voluntarily resigned. Well, the student body didn't like it, and they raised over $33,000 in a GoFundMe campaign to help the teachers now that they're jobless. And they even organized, complete with rainbow flags, 2 protests against the Catholic diocese that was behind the dirty business. The students chanted, "Reinstate, not hate," and "Separate church and hate." Then they had a sit-in at the school itself. Then they walked out and spoke in front of a microphone and behind a banner, or in front of a banner, and their banner said, "Who would Jesus fire? Hashtag love is love." And this is why, as is so often the case, children get up to the point where mommy and daddy can't force them to go to church anymore, and then they don't go to church anymore. Because once kids figured out that they've been lied to for their entire childhood, they tend to distrust the people who did all the lying ever more. So, like I said, there's a good and a bad ad. Shame on this nasty diocese for canning a couple of good teachers, quality teachers, just because they suspect they don't have sexy time the way that Holy Mother Church says people are supposed to have sexy time. But good on the kids. Good on the kids. This is it's the kind of stuff that makes prayer meeting Wednesday so damn much fun. Now, this one comes out of a neck of the woods where, and I don't know, is Steve from Georgia standing there? No, not in the chat room right now. Steve might actually know where this is. Dalton, Georgia. It's one of at one point in time, I think it was the floor covering capital of America, carpets of Dalton. Well, here's a quick update. How about that? Brother Deacon Asa says, looks like Pastor Checkers' website is unreachable for routine maintenance, but their grifting or giving donation form is alive and well. Can't let a simple arrest for firing a deadly weapon at another one of Christ's children get in the way of a good grift. Of course not. Of course not. Anyway, Dalton, Georgia. There's a group of Christians who meet at the Wink Theater in Dalton. Back in 2015, they saw the darndest thing. Oil, not like 10W30 or Quaker State or just like oil was dripping in their prayer room. And then about a year later, there was the same oil dripping out of a Bible. And it was a Bible that belonged to a feller by the name of Jerry Pierce. Now, these Christians did not go all hog wild and holler, "It's a miracle." It's not like what happens when the Virgin Mary shows up on a piece of pumpernickel toast in Nashville, or a scone or something. No, and the simple and the credulous line up around the block to see the sacred toast. No, but they thought they had been favored with a sign from God because if you buy into this kind of stuff, you'll believe silly shit like that. They certainly didn't run around looking for a perfectly rational, real-world explanation why there would be, oil all over the place. But but Jerry Pierce, no, they wasn't seeing your Beverly Hillbillies type of oil, Jack and Shreveport. No, not at all. It's not the kind that can. It's not the kind that can get you. That can get you that Jed Clampett walking around money. No. Now it's just a kind of a clear oil. And the next thing you know, old Jerry Pierce, who had the oily Bible, goes on the road, traveling with his greasy Bible, and went all over the country, and simpletons came to get some of the oil, or pray on people, or dribble oil on people's heads. Remember, we refer to Texas Senator Rafaelito Eduardo Cruz as the anointed booger-eating future king of America, because every one of those statements is factually correct. Because there's video out there of his weird ass daddy Rafael Eduardo Cruz Sr., who forgot to become an American for a really long time, drizzling oil on Rafaelito's head and a bunch of other religious goober freaks, praying over him and declaring in the prayer that Rafaelito would be the king of America. Because, well, they kind of missed out on that whole constitutional republic based on democratic principles thing, and we ain't got no king. But these freaks believe in kingship, and so one of these days they're hoping to get rid of that whole nasty Constitution thing, start executing some folks who badly need executing, according to somebody who wrote a book back in the goddamn Bronze Age. Never mind. Well, folks began showing up in Dalton, popped by the Wink Theater for a church service, and Jerry Pierce would haul out his greasy Bible, and he'd touch people's heads with it or use it in baptisms. Now, to be fair, the church leaders themselves, they didn't say there's anything magic about it. But that didn't stop one woman from saying that God had done cured her cancer because she got touched by the magic Bible. Yeah. And the church would hand out little free vials of oil to the simpletons who would show up to the church there. And it was okay because that magic Bible had produced 400 gallons of oil. You heard that right, 400 gallons. And all of this caught the eye of a reporter for the Chattanooga Times Free Press, a fellow by the name of Wyatt Massey. And he got a tip. Turns out that Jerry Pierce, who has the Greasy Bible, is a regular customer at a retail outlet there, and we've got one up here too. You know, won't be long now before they've got the little chicks and little ducklings in, because it's called Tractor Supply. You know, they sell farm equipment, and they sell lawn mowers and chicks and ducks and chicks and geese and ducks that are scurry. Anyway, no singing. Well, there may be more singing. Fundraising goal is $370, and we're still sitting on zero. And you can get your Carhartt clothes and your off-brand Tractor Supply clothes, and you know what else you can get at Tractor Supply? Big old barrels of mineral oil. You can buy it by the gallon. And it turned out that Jerry Pierce was a regular customer at Tractor Supply in Dalton, Georgia. I'd think if I was going to run a grift like that, I'd at least go to Tractor Supply somewhere the hell else. But, well, Jerry wasn't much worried about it, I guess. So going back to December 2019, two of the managers at Tractor Supply ID'd Jerry Pierce and then the journalism continued to take place. They took some of the oil from Tractor Supply, and they took one of the vials of Jerry Pierce's Bible grease, and they had some chemistry done on it over to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. And guess what? Turned out the oil in Pierce's vial that was being produced by his Bible was, in fact, wait a minute, I take it all back, Jack, petroleum-based. Yeah. And the scientists there at the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, said, the results strongly suggest that the oil sample is mineral oil. Then they compared the chemical composition of Pierce's Bible oil to the stuff available for sale at the local Tractor Supply, and it turned out to be a nearly exact scientific match. So then, being good journalists, the Chattanooga paper, the Chattanooga Times Free Press, contacted Jerry Pierce. And with the whole story. And he said, them managers at Tractor Supply is a lying. Everything we do is in the light. I don't know how we could defend it other than just it comes up out of the Bible. It's what it does. Then, however, curiously, a note showed up on the website in which they declared the Bible has not produced any oil since January 10th of this new year. The flow has paused before, even for a week or so, and is not always consistent. But at this point, it's been almost a month and has not restarted. After today, February 4th, 2020, we will not be able to distribute oil. If the oil resumes its flow, we will resume distribution. And then, and then the church that meets there in the theater in Dalton, about a week ago, they canceled all future gatherings in the city there, America's carpet capital, Dalton, Georgia. They said, we're taking a short break from the prayer meetings to rest, pray, and seek the Lord as to which direction we feel He is leading us at the time. Hopefully not the same direction as local law enforcement. No, I added that last part. So, doggone it, don't you hate it when a perfectly good grift it gets ruined by science? No wonder Christians hate science so much. I know. Oh, and you know how yesterday we had, we started the evening, Steve in New York declared a Fuck John Bolton challenge, and we got, our buddy Arnold jumped in, and so, fuck John Bolton. Well, it's, no harm done. Little invective never hurt a bloodthirsty, warmongering asshole. But that's not good enough for the gospel-sharp Rodney Howard Brown. Yeah, we've had clips of Rodney Howard Brown in the past. He's one of those folks that couldn't get a good evangelical grift going in his home country. I believe in this, we reached a determination that was South Africa. And so he come to America, where the land of the free, where we fetishize free speech in favor of the religion industry. So back at the end of last month, he started tweeting, "In the name of Jesus," after the news broke that John Bolton had information that could have been relevant to the impeachment. Of course, we now know that John Bolton, being a good capitalist, realized that his ability to hustle a book was more important than the Constitution's need to be defended and upheld, even though he had sworn such an oath. Bolton was tweeting about meeting the parents of Otto Warmbier. Bolton said, "Sadly, they know better than anyone the brutality and dishonesty of the Kim Jong-un regime." Rodney Howard Brown declared, "You are a slimeball of the highest order. I should have knocked your sorry butt through the door of the Oval Office into the Rose Garden when I saw you. I would have gladly been arrested. What a Benedict Arnold. I'm glad you were fired. I have no respect for someone who is disloyal to the president and loyal to the deep state. No respect at all. What a globalist sellout." And then he said, "What would Jesus do? He would have made a whip and beat the crap out of him." Yeah. When we are fighting for the Republic, endeavoring to save it from a deep state coup, this clown walrus, Warhawk Bolton, just needs to return to the deep state ocean he swam out of. Yeah. Good times. Oh, and we've had an E.W. Jackson sighting, or E-Dub, as we call him here. It's true, Randy and PA noting, Thomas Jefferson's magic Quran should do about the same thing, which is, nothing. Talking about the magic Bible of Dalton. Flavio, meanwhile, says, I don't know, but I would think mineral oil is more expensive than a cheaper canola. Have you ever seen a canola, Flavio? You ever seen a canola naked? That's just a joke. No such thing as a canola. Canola oil is rapeseed oil, but how well do you think that would fly off the grocery store shelves? Meanwhile, back to the Holy Land experience and the Holy Land experiencing bankruptcy and economic collapse. Subject line, firing Jesus. Lady V says, for some reason I'm picturing Ted Neely. Jesus Christ, Ted, this is hard for me to say this, but we're going to have to let you go. Let's just go ahead and make your crucifixion scene your last. No need to come back in 3 days either. Well played. Meanwhile, Megan says, what the fuck is deep state? And does it mean anything other than people who don't do Trump's bidding? Well, it kind of does and it kind of doesn't. The deep state is this idea that there is, actually what they mean by deep state is that the federal government is able to continue, is reliant upon people who continue to work for the federal government, non-political employees, and that we can have peaceful transfers of power, yada, 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 yada. But no, once it gets into the hands and what passes for the mind of maggots is, deep state, brooga brooga, deep state, QAnon, Q is going to find out that Amy Klobuchar is actually Hillary Clinton in a rubber mask. And it's a shorthand for their wingnut paranoia, which of course has been a staple of the rip snorting crazy right wing, going all the way back to when the John Birch Society was accusing Dwight David Eisenhower of being a commie simp. Well, I'm sorry, Brother Deacon Asa. I thought you said the good pastor was from South Africa, Bob. Rodney Howard Brown. Why does he sound like Crocodile Kincaid? Well, I was trying to moderate Crocodile Kincaid a little bit, but there's a passing similarity between your Crocodile Kincaid accent and I don't do a South African accent worth of shit. I need to go back and watch the was it the first or the second Beverly Hills Cop? Isn't there a South African bad guy in there somewhere? It's a mite different because it's got some Dutch accent mixed in there, the Boers and whatnot. Lady with a Dutch accent, she tried to change my point of view. Oh, DJ disease strikes again. Oh, but that's why, because I don't do a South African accent worth a damn, but I can just sort of cheat and bring Crocodile Kincaid in. So that's it, deep state. Yeah, it's just white wing paranoia. Yeah. But anyway, back to E-Dub, just to finish up the sermon, and then we can get into some more serious topics. Most of the time when we hear from E-Dub, it's when E-Dub is out there pontificating about hot, sweaty men. And he does it a lot because old E-Dub spends a whole lot of time thinking about how gay folks have sex. One gets the idea that maybe, I don't know, E-Dub's a little bored, a little curious, little maybe QQ, questioning, right? But no, a little back during the whole impeachment process, Jerry Nadler referred to Trump, Nitwit Nero, as a dictator, or a dictator in waiting, or a dictator wannabe. And this got under the skin of old E-Dub, because he spent 8 years braying and hooting and hollering and squealing and shrieking all about how, that there Obama is a dictator, gonna be dictator Obama. And so since he's got one of those tax-free dodges of a radio show, he decided to make sure that the rubes, the listeners, as he thinks of them, didn't think that he was being a hypocrite or anything.
Me for a long time. They dug up a speech that I gave in 2013 in which, apparently, talking about President Obama, I said, the President Obama doesn't respect our Constitution. He doesn't respect our way of life. He doesn't respect our values. I said,
because Barack Obama wasn't a, mouth-breathing, knuckle-walking, knuckle-breathing, mouth-walking, right-wing freak. This was about the same time, 2013-ish, when they were running around, people were running around with bumper stickers that said, "Pray for Obama, Psalm 109." Let his days be short and his wife be a widow and his children be orphans. That, because you can find that kind of evil crap in their holy book.
He is trying to set himself up as a dictator. So, needless to say, they said, yeah, Jackson thinks that Nadler shouldn't have called Trump a dictator, but guess what? Jackson called Obama a dictator, so now all of a sudden he's got a problem with that. What a hypocrite. So,
Yeah, I don't know about you, but that's not exactly a knee slapper in my book. It's kind of a condemnation of the gross, rampant hypocrisy of your average good, God-fearing, upstanding, Bible-believing, Christ-centered, evangelical, fundamentalist, homosexual, Christian Republican.
So, of course, the question is, well, Bishop, isn't that a little hypocritical? I mean, if you said Obama was setting himself up to be a dictator, and then you complained about Nadler claiming that President Trump is a dictator, I mean, that does sound a little bit hypocritical, right? No, it's not.
Of course not, because Jesus wanted him to say that Obama was a dictator. Kenyan Muslim, you slurper.
And this is the thing you have to understand about the left, folks. I think because of their godlessness, and I'm talking...
Yeah, blame it. Blame the godlessness. Yeah, I mean, why not? He can't get around and feel the bumps on everybody's head and blame it on some phrenological condition.
About these elites primarily. See, because there are a lot of people out there. This pro-life Democrat who went to Buttigieg's town hall and challenged him. Some of these people believe in God, and they just still think the Democrat Party has something to offer. I disagree with that, about that.
Democratic Party, but we've been over that before. That's all intentional. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. One of the things about not being a theist and not putting one's trust in a big bearded juvenile delinquent in the sky is that one is constantly forced to evaluate and reevaluate one's values to make sure that they are grounded, to make sure that they are right. That never happens with Christians, especially Christians who are Christians the way that old E-Dub is a Christian. They just set their mind on whatever bigotry it is that they think that they can find in the Bible, let his wife be a widow, and well, God said it, and I believe it, and that settles it.
Part, but they're pro-life, they're pro-family, but these elites think they're all stupid. They're all rubes, and we're gonna.
There, he said it. Yeah. Well, I mean, they did spend 8 years, fueled largely by a campaign run by Tangerine Tiberius, jumping up and down and playing with themselves and hollering about how they wanted to see the birth certificate. God damn it. But in the name of Jesus, the birth certificate. I mean, they did that. And now they sit silently by while children die in concentration camps, and they say nothing. They are as quiet as a graven image. They are as silent as the tomb. Because their God Emperor is the one who's tormenting the children. And it's okay by them. Because they have no morals. They fluster and squeal about the preciousness of life. But the minute that baby's out of the birth canal, oh, child, you are on your own.
In the next segment, give you something that shows you what they think of us. But they because of their spiritual deficit.
Son of a gun! I got a spiritual deficit. Can somebody? I need a link to some good spirituals. That's what I need. And maybe I can clear up my spiritual deficit that way. Maybe just, I don't know, listen to some old maybe some old recordings of Mahalia Jackson or something like that, and take care of my spiritual deficit.
Their intellect is very, very superficial. Because, remember, Marx was a confirmed atheist. Well, you've got to have a superficial intellect to buy into Marxism.
I'll bet you the last dollar I have that old E-Dub wouldn't know a passage from Marx versus a passage from Mark. You know why? You know why you can fool these asshat Christians with passages from Marx, and they'll think it's the Bible? Because a lot of the stuff that Marx was talking about comes from the New Testament in particular. Things like where Paul writes, we held all things in common. Yeah. That means that he was the early Christians were communists. What? From each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. Sounds pretty biblical, doesn't it? Mainly because it is. That's in the same vein as Yeshua, the brown-skinned Palestinian day laborer, and semi-literate itinerant rabbi who wore a dress every day of his life, saying to the rich man, hey, you want to enter the kingdom of heaven? Sell everything you have, give the money to the poor, and follow me. And the man went away, and he was sad.
He was intellectually superficial. I'm not saying, when I say that, I don't mean they're not bright, that they don't have a high IQ. I'm saying that there's an internal malfunction in their intellect that renders them stupid and renders them superficial.
Yeah, sure. Meanwhile, we just had 2 minutes and 19 seconds, or 2 minutes and 15 seconds of E.W. Jackson, who spends ever so much time thinking about big, hot, sweaty men, demonstrating for all the world to see his own superficiality. Marx, Brother Deacon Asa adds, was also a diehard consumer of dairy products. So does E-Dub's, so does E-Dub. Gotcha, E-Dub, you Marxist scumbag! The unassailable logic of a Brother Deacon. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that gets us pretty close to caught up. Just one last thing. A dispatch from Rick Wiles over at True News. I don't think we did this one last week. Last week we had a whole lot of Rick Wiles channeling his inner Nazi. But Rick, and he does that here too. But this is a real get the hockey puck kind of thing. Because in a time, and remember, we've got a pageant tonight from Las Vegas that will not feature, oddly enough, the only, and I'm sorry, I know you're on hold. For some reason or other, I can't get you hooked up to the Bluetooth this evening. If you want to try, I've got it hooked back up. If you want to try back, that's cool. There's one candidate out there in the Democratic field. We talked about this the other night. Who has a direct lineage from someone who fought Nazis and prosecuted Nazis. That's Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer is a billionaire, but Tom Steyer will not be on the stage tonight because they didn't bend the rules for him the way they did for Michael Bloomberg. And now a clip has entered the political consciousness of the last 24 hours or 48 hours or so, in which one may hear Michael Bloomberg referring to trans people as it. And it's pretty disgusting, really. It's disgusting the same way it was disgusting when he talked about how the 18 to 25-year-old black and brown men who don't know how to behave on the job, don't know how to behave. Yeah. And stop and frisk and all the other stuff, yeah. Yeah, he referred to trans people as it, which I guess is kind of, well, no, it's not. Well, enter Rick Wiles, who has figured out who it is that's behind all of these trans that are out there now. It's covered up in trans everywhere. Everybody's trans now. Harumph. Get the hockey puck. But of course, since it's Rick Wiles, you know who is at fault, right? Say it, Brother Deacon Asa. Type it, Brother Deacon Asa. Yeah. It's the same people who are always responsible whenever
They want to rule the world. They want to get Gentile riches, and they want to rule the Gentiles. They don't consider Gentiles fully human beings. And in fact, as an end game, they have this strange doctrine, Adam Kadmon doctrine, which Adam Kadmon originally was, according to Zohar and Talmud, he was androgynous. Adam, like he wasn't male, or he was male, female in one body, and this is why you see this transgender agenda today, and there are laws, very serious laws, passing in Alberta, Canada.
Is Zionism behind the transgender movement?
I don't think Zionist Christians are aware of this. They're not aware of many details of what
But is Zionism?
But I think that, yes.
Does the transgender movement get its origin in Zionism?
Yes, it gets its origin in Zionism, and it gets its origin in the Talmud, Zohar, and Kabbalah. It's a Kabbalistic doctrine of Adam Kadmon, which is eventually they have this doctrine called Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. Yes. So how do they want to repair the world? They want to bring it to the original. Who was original Adam? He was androgynous. So now they're putting specific things in food and drink, and they're basically their end game is to.
Now wait, hold a damn minute. Hold the phone, sister. You're working Alex Jones's corner, and he's going to be after you. Because Alex Jones has been saying that stuff in the food and the liquids is turning people gay for years now, and you just saying no, trans is not enough to get around his legitimate claim of gimmick infringement. What I find particularly humorous is that, of course, Rick Wiles is one of these people who thinks that that book is the inerrant, literal word of God. And so that means that in Genesis, when it says that, first God made Adam, and he didn't make Adam and Eve, and as we are so often reminded by the likes of Rick Wiles, he didn't make Adam and Steve either. No offense to the many members of the Horn community fraternity of Steves. No, Adam was by himself, according to the, and he has to believe this. Rick Wiles does. And after a while, Adam got bored just hanging out with the creator of the universe all the time. Hey, what you doing, man? Oh, nothing. I just thought I'd, hang out here and, ride the lions and tigers today for a little while because, they were vegetarian back then, lions and tigers. Nobody was eating meat. They were all vegans back then. I don't know. Come back later. I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. And so Adam was lonely, and so God gave Adam a roofie, and plucked out one of Adam's ribs and fashioned Woe Man. So there would be man and Woe Man. And he wakes up and Adam wakes up and there's this creature next to him, and it's a hilarious little bit. And if you really want to enjoy it in its fullness, you'll go and read Mark Twain's The Diary of Adam and Eve. It's delightful, and in the end, it's poignant and touching and beautiful. But the problem is, I don't know that much about for instance, if Will in Chicago was around, he could probably help. But, Talmud is a commentary on Torah, I think. And that's and the same thing happens. Oh, it's like Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Sun Tzu will say, war's not your best bet. And then there's 1,000 years of Asian sages explaining what that very simple sentence means. Well, you get the same kind of thing. commentaries. Happens all the time. Anyway, so it's an attempt to explain where Eve came from, and the fact, and what, if you look at it from that sort of Joseph Campbell power of myth thing, they're arguing that Adam contained both a feminine essence and a masculine essence, which actually turns out to be kind of scientifically true, because women have 2 X chromosomes and men have an X and a Y. All zygotes in the womb begin female. And the Y chromosome twists things later on in gestation. Myth is interesting that way. Rick Wiles has to believe that, but at the same time, Rick Wiles has decided to go over and work the Nazi corner, and so he's got to find some way to blame. That's right, Brother Deacon Asa, the Jews. Brother Deacon Asa noting, Brother Rick Wiles is correct, Bob. The Jews have been cramming the trans down our Christian throats for decades. I mean, no, I'm going to leave that one out. Because then I got to go back to the one where, you can say that, but you can't say the other. And we did a pretty passing fair job of wearing that out last week. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll just wrap this shit up. Not much left.
Who was original Adam? He was androgynous. So now they're putting specific things in food and drink, and they're basically their end game is to make humans that.
Just an aside, doesn't she sound a little bit like Ensign Chekhov?
On Earth that will survive whatever it is they're bringing, androgynous. The transgender agenda.
What they're really trying to do is
time out, Jack. Okay, time out. I hate to break it to them, but transsexuality ain't the same thing as androgyny. Androgyny is a sort of sexlessness. No, says Brother Deacon Asa, she does not sound like Ensign Chekhov. She sounds rather a lot like the First Lady. And I will add, because I know the mind of Brother Deacon Asa, he uses the word lady very loosely. Not saying she's a loose lady. He uses the term. I'd better quit while I'm ahead.
Do God's creation.
Exactly.
Yes. They are at odds with the Creator.
Right.
Yeah. The Zionist Jews are trying to turn America into the whole world into transsexuals. I'll be dipped. Kind of makes you wonder if it kind of makes you wonder if old Rick Wiles has a closet full of not skeletons, but more likely stunning cocktail frocks, sequins and glitter and lame. Steve in New York says, Brother Deacon Asa, that's exactly what I thunk. If you don't mind, says Ron in Raleigh on the topic of Michael Bloomberg, if Michael Bloomberg is the nominee, do you mind if I hold my nose to vote for this racist scumbag? Would you please compare and contrast the differences between Trump and Bloomberg, two rich racists from New York City that are sexists and predators? The biggest contrast is that Michael Bloomberg is legitimately filthy fucking rich, whereas Donald Trump is a jumped-up little pissant who wants people to think he's rich. That's the only comparison and contrast I can find. Well, okay, to be fair, Bloomberg acknowledges that climate change is real, but he's also so wealth privileged that he probably thinks that there's a solution to it that involves him getting richer. Nitwit Nero has done everything possible to make wherever the next stop on the NRA's roulette wheel of death is as bloody as possible, whereas Michael Bloomberg has from time to time done things to try to ameliorate, if not alleviate, the scourge of guns in this country. Granted, he's also supported candidates who really, really like guns. And he's, from time to time, been as much or more of a Republican than Trump is or ever will be. So I understand but by the same token, if this country is truly in an existential crisis, if the continuation of Donald Trump in office very, very well may spell our doom, then I would say anything that gets him out of office should probably be sufficient to keep you from even having to put that clothespin on your nose, Ron. Because Donald Trump truly is that horrible of a human being. Yes, Michael Bloomberg, also a horrible human being. But there's a sort of a horrible human being scale to it. I mean, you got Bloomberg with stop and frisk. You've got Trump, who was carefully taught to be a racist by his Klansman daddy. You got stop and frisk versus him wanting the Central Park Five to be murdered in the name of the state, even though the Central Park Five were clearly not guilty, innocent even. And then you get onto a sliding scale where you got to kind of wonder about, Amy Klobuchar, who for fairly obvious motives has a guy who is sitting doing life in prison in Minnesota even now, who probably wasn't guilty. Steve in New York, compare and contrast baby shit, horse shit, dog shit, and pig shit. They're all shit. So, I get it. I do. And my enthusiasm levels will be lower with some than with others. I got around to I just, as I was sitting around, we were waiting on Ferg to go in for his procedure and everything today. I just started doing some nosing around as to, presidential history. And granted, everything has its own separate set of unique circumstances. But just by way of sorting things out, I'm not saying anything I haven't been saying. I'm genuinely concerned about this notion of starting to do things that were never within the contemplation of the framers. And there were a lot of things that weren't within their contemplation, like people with skin darker than a paper bag being 5/5 of a human being. But as to the presidency, we get a little bit of a roadmap. A federal judge gets a lifetime appointment. A federal judge can be a federal judge as long as that person continues to breathe in again after breathing out previously. Okay? Not the same with the president. Now, they didn't impose term limits on the presidency because that was something stupid that Republicans did in the middle of the 20th century. But they did have a recognition, I think, of what they were asking of the occupant of the White House. So this is just, say, from mid-20th century on. When he died in office in 1945, FDR was only 63. Yes, he had dealt with polio, and that will take you that takes a terrible toll on the human body. Then there's that vigorous golf-playing man, Dwight David Eisenhower, born in 1890, I think. He was 2 years into his first presidential term in 1955 when he had a heart attack, and the nation gasped, and a lot of them probably prayed. And he survived it. And he survived long enough that he would only die. He'd serve out his term. I think most of America was praying because it was like, oh, dear Jesus, please, not Richard Nixon as president. Because he would have been if when Eisenhower had his heart attack in Denver, he had kicked the bucket. But he lived to be, well, he passed away in 1969, Eisenhower did, when he was 79 years old. LBJ didn't show any overt signs of being of ill health while he was president. He died in 1973. When he did, LBJ was 65 years old. Evil's a preservative, so Nixon lived into his 90s. Then there's old 666 himself, Ronald Wilson Reagan. And Ronald Wilson Reagan left office in 1989 at the age of 78. Younger than at that point, or at roughly the same age as three of the old white male candidates are now. At 78, when Reagan left office after having lived a vigorous life of horseback riding and giving young starlets cold hamburger meals and complaining about the cost of condoms, because he did all that, Reagan did, because Merca. Well, when he shuffled off this mortal coil, his brains at age 78 were mushroom soup. Then there's Bill Clinton. You know, I hadn't given much thought to it, but Bill Clinton was done being president at age 54. It kind of knocked me back a little. Wow. But Bill Clinton was barely out of the White House, then his happy ass was in a hospital having bypass surgery. And it's kind of wow. And I was reminded when I mentioned, Trump's birtherism earlier. In an interview today, the woman who is Bernie's spokesperson declared that asking about Bernie's medical condition is the same thing as birtherism. No. Questioning the health status of an old white man is not the same as engaging in a full-on racist assault against a president for being black. They are not the same thing. But presidential history does not suggest that it's a job for octogenarians. And before somebody can get all bent out of shape and say, God damn it, you're just afraid of Bernie. No. Been down that road. I'm afraid of octogenarian presidents. Because this country will not handle a president dying in office well at all. We will collectively lose our shit. And the little troll farms and bot farms will go into overdrive, creating paranoid fantasies about what really happened to President fill in the blank. And with the three old white men contending to be president, to be the Democratic nominee, the other thing that needs to be remembered is that each of them will, by virtue of their own age, make Trump the young candidate, the younger candidate. It'll be like a contest between Leonid Brezhnev and Yuri Andropov. Young had a different meaning back then in Soviet Russia. So we're back to the old knight in the cave in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Choose wisely. Donnie don't care. James pointing out, he said that climate change is real in the past, but now he says it's a hoax. That's where the money is for him right now. He'll say what's in their script, then cuss them when the door is shut and the cameras are gone. And they know it. That's the deal they've worked out. It is quite simply, we are living in quite simply the most cynical time in the history of American politics. And as long as they get what they want, they'll let him do whatever he wants. We've also seen that political scenario play out. When people with political savvy and power said, well, we can handle this guy. Ron and Raleigh says, are you saying you mean the lesser of two evils? I don't want to knowingly vote for racists. The nose holding is the only defense that I have. Then hold it if you must. But understand, whomever the Democratic nominee is, you will be performing a most patriotic act, assuming that we all actually believe what we're saying when we talk about how goddamn dangerous Donald Trump is. So, I understand. All right, we've reached the halfway point of the program. Let's run over to the stress line, and see who we've got. Hey, welcome to the program.
Yo, Bob, happy hump day to you, man. It's me, Reggie from Kincaid, Georgia, and I have some view news for you. Did you see our favorite neighborhood girlfriend, yours and mine, not other than AOC on The View today?
I saw that she had been there, and I saw that she took Nutmeg to school.
Yes, they were talking. Who, by the way, Nutmeg, that is. Nutmeg, who, by the way, brought up the Bernie bros, saying that if anybody can reach middle ground on both the left and the right women, both sides, the left and the liberal and conservative women, can agree on and upon that they were being verbally attacked by the Bernie bros. And then Whoopi chimed in and said Bernie should, do more. He should go after them and try to stop them, which is virtually impossible because you can't go after an entire planet. No Bernie bros. I mean, what does she think he is? Their father or something? I mean, how can he stop them? He doesn't even know them from Adam and Eve, let alone go after them and try to stop them from going after women of all sides, both left and right. So Nutmeg was the one that brought that one up, Bob. You know what I'm saying?
Look, I've been participating in various forms of social media for a while. I mean, I go back so far that I can remember getting in flame wars before there was a Facebook or even a MySpace. God damn it! Right. And you're like, somebody's wrong on the internet, and so you're clacking away, because damn it, and it's like winning an argument on the internet is like winning a gumball after you put 25 cents in the machine at the Wiggling Pig and turn the knob.
Right.
But I would like, or let's put it this way, I don't like to see, and I knew it was going to devolve into this. We started, when the campaign started 3 years ago or whenever it did, the various camps were behaving decently, but I knew it wouldn't last. And in 2016, for every hateful Bernie supporter, there was an equally hateful Hillary supporter. I witnessed them both with my own eyes. It is, when you talk about something like Twitter, you have no way of really knowing in real time, super fast fact check wise, whether you're arguing with a bot or a human being.
Right.
Most of the time. I mean, right. I've seen numbers about Twitter that shocking numbers of people of accounts there are bots.
Right. And you know what else AOC talked about? She talked about Bernie's heart attack and her reelection. She also talked about Democratic role models and grassroots. She also talked about her endorsing Bernie and rising stardom or rising to fame. And she also talked about Michael Bloomberg and the billionaires on The View today.
I saw a rundown of all of that while I was sitting in the waiting room.
So that's great.
It's always good political theater to watch Meghan McCain, who, remember, would not be on that television show were her last name not McCain and her father's first name John.
Right.
But it's theater. When I run clips from that, right. it's generally not for informational purposes, but strictly entertainment, because it's fun. There's a certain amount of Schadenfreude that attaches to watching Meghan McCain proudly proudly display her manifest ignorance.
Ignorance, right, about everything, and especially Michael Bloomberg, who I said she wouldn't vote for. I mean, she's not a Trump supporter. That's what she said. But she wouldn't vote for Trump, and she damn sure wouldn't support or endorse Michael Bloomberg. Okay.
Well, the problem is we're going to have the same problem this November as we have every presidential November. Okay.
Right.
And that is, it is a first past the post system, and the math the math simply works out that if you don't vote for the person, no matter how vile you may think that person is, and there's a lot of argument to be made for how vile Michael Bloomberg is, right. then you're voting for your opponent. Okay. Right. And so, I mean, for instance, after she declared that asking about Bernie's medical records was the same thing as birtherism, lo and behold, I found out that that same individual proudly declared in 2016, "Hell yes, I voted for Jill motherfucking Stein."
Right. Who was that person, by the way, Bobby? If I may so ask you that.
That's Bernie's official spokesperson, Brianna Joy Gray.
Right. Well, Rihanna, I hate to say this about his full of shit when she's trying to compare being asked about your birtherism or birther, or comparing birtherism to medical aid or to Medicare or Medicaid.
No, just medical records.
I mean, what's wrong with that? Look, I mean, yeah.
Well, here, Reggie, let me get out in front of this one again, like I got out in front of it back in 2016. And I mentioned this not too long back. Everybody was having a shit hammer. God damn, Hillary Clinton went and, oh, Jesus, she talked to a bunch of, she accepted money to go and give a speech to a bunch of Wall Street bankers. Jesus Christ, God damn it, she's practically a Republican. Oh, I can't stand her. And what I said back then was, listen, release the stupid transcripts, release the audio recordings, release it all. Release it all and get out in front of it and own the narrative. Don't wait around to let somebody else define you. And lo and behold, of course, she dug her heels in. She didn't release it. It eventually comes out, and then she got owned over it. When, in fact, there was nothing nefarious to it. It was just a matter of her accepting a couple of $100,000 to go and tell a bunch of hedge fund managers and Wall Street bankers who would sell their own goddamn grandmothers, if the price was right, that they were the best people on earth and they shit ice cream, which is what you do when you get hired to do one of those things. Well, the same thing applies now, because she was the front runner back then. And the same thing applies to Bernie as front runner now. Get out in front of the goddamn narrative and quit having other people define you for you. Release the damned records. And that's, it's, unless there's something really horrifying in there, in which case, well, what could be so awful? That his PSA numbers are a little bit high. Jesus, the Republicans nominated a guy in John McCain back in 2008 who was a walking poster child for skin cancer. And Reggie, I'm sorry, I can't get you connected back into the line, but the thing's misbehaving again. But I'm glad we got to talk a little bit. We'll talk again soon, and you stay warm and dry and take care of yourself. All right. Later. And this is just another case of owning the narrative. The longer you don't, the more people have a chance to wonder what it is that you're trying to hide. Because I remember that from 2016. God damn it! What's Hillary trying to hide? Did she go in there and give away her secret plans to sell to sell out America to Goldman Sachs? Oh God damn! Oh Jesus, Hillary! I hate her! And it went on and on and on and on and on for months. And because she was stubborn, she didn't just do the simple thing and release the damn records. I mean, we're not talking about national security here. We're not talking about national secrets. We're talking about being afraid to control and own one's own narrative. Yeah, David in South Carolina, Stan, talking about Brianna Joy Gray, says she's on Twitter now, still arguing with Tim Wise that asking for Bernie's health records is the same as birtherism. And I don't like the inherent hypocrisy of it. We've 3 years been saying, I wonder how sick that fucker really is, talking about Trump. Every time he comes out and slurs, or one eye's drooping, or his pupils are the size of pinpoints, or the pupils the size of eggs. They're legitimate concerns. Darlene in Connecticut said, what a dumbass spokeswoman to have said that in reference to Bernie. So I guess that must logically extend to the 25th Amendment then. The 25th, if ever utilized, equals birtherism. Imagine if Congress ever did its duty under the 25th. Imagine if Congress ever took the drafters and ratifiers of the 25th Amendment up on their offer and passed such other body as the Congress may provide by law to attend to issues of presidential health and sanity. Imagine that. Well, in Brianna Joy Gray's world, I guess that's birtherism too. Oh, Jesus. So, ugh. And I'm totally neutral in this. I do not have a candidate. I'm going to keep repeating it until everybody understands that. And my worries about octogenarian candidates would apply if the octogenarian candidate was Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, any of them. Because, and apparently I'm not doing a good enough job explaining myself on it, and I don't know how to better say it, this country, at this point in time, under these circumstances, cannot cope with a presidential death in office. We don't have the sober journalism for it. We don't have the civic education for it. We don't have we don't have the willingness not to panic for it. We have no idea, and I'm challenged to express how dangerous that could be. And that risk always exists. But the Secret Service has gotten pretty good at keeping presidents from getting bumped off. And so you have to worry about natural processes. For instance, I saw a mortality table. The average mortality for someone in the 69 to 75 age group who is post one myocardial infarction, well, in 5 years, half of that demographic is dead. That you don't get much more sobering than that. Exactly. Sexism much, asks Megan. I seem to recall everyone having a shit fit and ready to write Hillary's obituary over her fainting from a touch of pneumonia. Now Bernie has a heart attack and we're not allowed to ask for health records? Fuck that shit. Oh, it's out there in all its glory. Or in all its ignominy. And I remember who was having the conniption over her fainting. 2 camps. One was the Trump camp, of course. Oh, she's sick. She's very sick. And then we found out, of course, that bots and troll farms were amplifying that. And the other camp was, well, which is very difficult for me to talk about because, damn it, like I said, I'm to the left of Bernie. But that does not immunize me or turn me into a worshiper. And it just ain't going to worship. There's a lot of it going on out there. Gods, people, anything. I don't worship. And I think that any nominee is fundamentally electable as long as we, the people, get out and do the voting and get the vote out. That's the key to electability. Not whether we like the sound of a voice or hand gestures or what color suit they wear or whether a man ties a full Windsor, a half Windsor, or a slip knot. Will we get out and do the voting? That all seems fairly clear to me. I just had a sad note. I ain't scared. No, I ain't scared at all. I had a bit of sad news, truly, genuinely sad news. I had a note from our buddy Charlie in Tennistan. He was on hold while I was talking to Reggie. I wish I'd gotten to him. Charlie, if you want to call back, you're welcome to. Charlie said he got an email from Mercedes today. You'll recall Mercedes was our friend Larry's caregiver. And she informed him that Larry had passed away today from pancreatic cancer. And I'm so terribly sorry to hear that. Larry had been a vibrant part of this community and an activist, and I will never, ever forget his labors in hand-carrying the AIC Act to his member of Congress and what Larry had to do to be able to travel around the Bay Area. But it didn't matter. He went, took the AIC Act to his member of Congress and said, please, you have no idea what's happening in Appalachia, and it's horrible. Please co-sponsor this bill. And she did. She did. Larry will be missed. And one can only hope, and hope is it's not a thin reed. It is no reed at all. But one may hope that Larry's passing was peaceful. So live on in the eternity of memory, Larry. Live on. And be in our thoughts. It's very sad. Very sad indeed. So, let me check a couple of messages here. Yeah, I remember that too. Randy and PA pointing out, yeah, Barry Soetoro, remember? They wouldn't even give him the dignity of his own name. Arnold says of Bloomberg, anybody who is that rich, corrupt, and clueless should not be the Democratic nominee, even in consideration. Yeah, in a philosophical world, I suppose not. But this isn't that world, Arnold. This is an electoral system that is fueled just the way everything else in this country is, by money. And a sufficient amount of wealth will get you at least a certain way, a part of the way down the path. And that's what we're seeing with Bloomberg. You know, make no mistake, Michael Bloomberg hasn't had some road to Damascus moment where he's suddenly become a Democrat. He ran as a Republican and then ran as an independent to be mayor of New York. And theoretically, he got into the race in case Biden stumbled, because that's what Biden always does. He's never finished higher than fourth, I think is what I read, in any primary in which he's been a candidate over the course of 4 presidential campaigns. And so Bloomberg gets in as a backstop for centrism. And now it appears that he's the one doing more damage to Joe Biden than anyone except perhaps Joe Biden. But as I've said so many times, my primary vote does not count. I know Kim in New Jersey thinks there's an outside chance it might, but the smart money is on it won't. So everybody else is going to make my choice for me. So there's no sense in me even announcing a preferred candidate. So I'm going to be happy to do my patriotic duty and vote for whoever isn't Donald Trump on that ballot in November. Because I'm not playing. I'm not making it up. I am utterly and absolutely convinced that Donald Trump is the destruction of constitutional governance in this country. And if you can watch his behavior over the last 3 years and come to some other conclusion, I don't know. Well, I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You've got to overlook so much. I mean, Jesus Christ! Can we re-impanel the judiciary and intel committees? Pretty please. Because see, when a lawyer walks into court over in merry old England and makes representations of fact to the court, it comes with dire consequences if said lawyer walks into said court and simply bullshits. And today we found out that Julian Assange claims that through an intermediary, Donald Trump promised him a pardon in exchange for saying that the Russians had nothing to do with the hack of the DNC server. Which is kind of an admission of guilt on Trump's part that, yes, he knows. Of course he knows. And he is a Russian asset. And it has not been litigated, and it has not been thoroughly fleshed out in open court, but it was in documents presented to the court as a factual statement. And this has to do with with Assange's attempt to resist extradition to the United States. We don't even have to go into the right or the wrong of Assange's of the charges against Assange. It is enough to note that at least thus far, he is saying he was offered a bribe to make a statement which appears to, to make a false statement about Russian involvement in the election in 2016. That's kind of a bombshell. And now, well, not now, but let's leave that be. So we are 2 hours into the program, and we had $370 to raise at the beginning of the program. We still have $370 to raise to keep the program even. It would be nice if we could take some of that out, knock some of that down so that we're not wandering, stumbling into Friday instead of having a fundraising free Friday. Might be looking instead at $770, which would kind of suck. Going to the phone in a second here. Note from Lady B. Hillary stayed with a man who was a serial cheater. He also happens to be brilliant, Harvard-educated lawyer with an eidetic memory and a lifetime of protection and privilege before him. Christians say forgiveness is essential to a long and fulfilling marriage. I say Hillary assessed the situation and said, how many bitches can say they're married to a former leader of the free world? Damned if you do or damned if you don't, man. She was tainted, should not have run, blah, blah, blah. We could say the same about Bloomberg, but we won't. I'm willing to say he shouldn't run. More than willing to say it. Not to offend, says Lady B, but can some of our white listeners explain to me why y'all have such a problem with a woman being president? Does she need to remind you of your mom or grandma? Nitpicky shit like that don't bother me. I didn't have to like her personally. I voted for her because she was qualified. I will interrupt to say I'm so sorry about your friend Larry. God damn it, old or young, why do the good go first? I mean, fucking Dick Cheney is still alive, for God's sakes. Om mani padme om, Larry. But seriously, though, what do white people have against white women who run for president? Do they all have character flaws? Really thinking of voting for Bernie in the primary just to see how far he goes. I'm in fuck it mode. He probably won't get a lot done with an opposing Senate, but at least he won't put any more kids in cages. Keeping the faith warm on a hot plate. Signed, Lady B. Sometimes that's all you can do. I, of course, didn't have a problem with a woman being president. Still don't. While I have no stated preferences as far as a candidate is concerned, one of the remaining women in the field is still high on my list. And this too. And this is kind of a counter question, and Lady B, understand it in the question in the spirit in which it is asked. Will and the rest the rest of the female contingent of the Horn Family Community Congregation, the same applies. Will any woman do? Will when it comes, we need to have a woman be president of the United States. Will any woman do? And by that, I don't mean any woman. I mean, the only qualification for the President of the United States is that one be a natural-born citizen of the country and older than 35. Nothing in there about gender. In fact, the absence of references to gender was a big part of the arguments put forward in the original suffrage campaigns of people like Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Will any woman do? Because let me put. Sorry, I'm good at nightmares. Because I'm Bob Kincaid, a little ray of fucking sunshine. None of the almost octogenarians running for president can be expected to serve 2 terms. Biden screwed up one day and said, well, maybe I won't. 2 terms is the standard for a presidency now. If you can't keep 2 terms, you can't get anything done. Because your ass gets lame ducked before you're done with your second Congress. So that means that it is highly unlikely that of the 3 old white men running for president on the Democratic side, it's highly unlikely that any of them will either be capable of or around to run for a second term. So that means we'll be going through this bullshit again in 2024, 4 years from now. Won't be talking about, assuming we can eject Nitwit Nero from the office. We're going to be talking about who the right person to be president is again. Which means we're going to be going through all of this bullshit again. Meanwhile, over on the Republican side, how do you think Republicans will respond if, in an attempt to return to the greatness that was America under Trump, the Republican Party nominates precious Princess Iwanka. Iwanka my daddy Trump. Oh, I know. I can. This is just like Romper Room. I can hear the gagging and the vomiting from here. But when we make blanket statements like, we need a woman president, I think it is incumbent upon us to recognize that one should be careful what one wishes for, because a generic, we need a woman president, includes people like precious Princess Iwanka and that noted policy genius, Nimrata Haley. Who knows, by 2024, noted hog deballer Joni Ernst may be presidential timber. So, anybody want to opine on that? Anybody want to jump in on that? I mean, if we're just checking boxes off, we can say, hey, look, we've got a female president. It's President Iwanka. Now, I mentioned the possibility of this years ago now, but I did notice on Twitter that others are beginning to come around to the same idea. That if we don't have a candidate who can run for if we don't have a candidate who can run and win in 20 and run and win a second term in 2024, don't think for a minute to the extent that that orange bastard thinks still. I mean, do you realize everything he does is done for some vindictive, shitty motive? And it would be the ultimate finger right in the eye of Hillary Clinton and everybody who ever supported her, that his nasty, privileged, overrated daughter would become the first president, the first female president of the United States. Yeah, sure, why not? David in South Carolina stand with even little nutmeg. So we need to be careful what we wish for. Now, I will tell you, for instance, that I am utterly unimpressed with Amy Klobuchar. Gender does not enter into the into the calculus. Anybody who says that it's not even worth thinking about trying to make sure that everybody in this country can go to the doctor when they're sick is going to unimpress me. On the other hand, I have a mountain of respect for Elizabeth Warren. Will any woman do, Lady B asks? Nope, not at all. And don't nobody bring up Obama. He was a fucking Harvard constitutional professor. I didn't vote for Jesse or any other black candidate in the past. My vote for Obama was genuine and just as legit, if not more so, than that clown Trump. I like Warren. I'm not feeling Klobuchar much, but she's qualified. All I'm saying is that if folks think Bernie's too socialist, why not support Warren? She's a perfectly viable candidate. But again, whoever the nominee is. And, yeah, for the sake of clarification, stop it, Bob, says Lee in New York. You have preferences for a presidential candidate. I believe that you feel as I do. The D candidate will get my vote. I'm viewing this like choosing ice cream. I might not get my favorite, but I will get ice cream. Happy food porn, Lee in New York. Yeah, I would think it would go without saying because I have never voted for a Republican in my life, in any office whatsoever, and I don't plan to start anytime soon, and I damn sure ain't going to start with Donald fucking Trump. So, yeah. But, you know, the problem, Lee, is that you and I can say, hey, at least I get ice cream. There are a lot of people in this country who might say, well, okay, yeah, I may not get the kind of ice cream I want, but I'm going to get ice cream. But there's at least one guy who would probably have me stopped and frisked to make sure that I didn't steal the ice cream. And that's where the Bloomberg problem comes in. Labor Man says, so sad. What a terrific human being to lose. Condolences to all that knew Larry. Does anyone? I don't have that. I don't have that, Gary. Interestingly, James in Illinois says, I think Larry was the only member of the community that I knew in the flesh. We mentioned working in the Disability Caucus at the California Democratic Party. He taught me by example some of the many difficulties of being a severely disabled person and how that need not keep you down. You just keep going, not one foot in front of the other, but with modern technology, just a firm grip on the joystick. Keep rolling, Larry, off to the wild blue yonder. The rest of us We'll do just like you did while you were here. Agitate, agitate, agitate. As for what Lady B says, James in Illinois says, Lady B, I would happily vote for Elizabeth Warren, unless you're running. Ooh, high praise indeed. So, one wonders if Brianna Joy Gray is going to become a liability for Bernie Sanders. I don't know. But it doesn't. There are more than a few people who have gone and found her tweet from September 26, 2016, in which she says, Donald Trump is right. The Dems pushed the Russia did the hacking angle because it was politically advantageous for them. Hashtag debate night. Wow. Oh, well. Let's run over and check in with Tracy. Hey, Tracy.
Hi.
Sorry to make you wait so long, but
No,
stuff that had to
fine
be
because
stuff that had to be gone through.
No, because I was concerned. I'm stuck in this spot where you lose me. So I was like, keep talking.
So are we in a little better shape now?
Hopefully, I'm almost out of it. Traffic is a mug this evening. I don't know what's today, Wednesday? So there's really no reason for traffic to be this bad on a Wednesday. It's usually Thursdays, and that traffic is stupid. But it is what it is. I'm just, happy to be on my way home eventually, sometime, somehow, soon. I hope. So, yeah. So when I heard somebody died, it was Larry? Our Larry.
Yeah, our Larry up in Berkeley.
Up in Berkeley. Oh, my gosh. Because, it's so crazy. The other day, I did go Friday on the front porch, and he was in my head. And, both of us, suffer from CRS. And as quickly as it was in my head to mention and ask, because I hadn't heard from him on the show in a while. Had you heard from him? And, of course, it came and went, and knowing me, I went on about my business, because talking about me, because enough about me, but what do you think about me? I forgot to ask about him, and then I heard what you just said as I came when you picked me up on the phone. So my goodness, condolences. He's a good guy. He really cared about, issues about people with disabilities and, furthering his education and just. I
think I admired that. I admired what James was talking about. Agitate. But his given the hand that life had dealt him, the fact that he would not give up on his own education and on making and on understanding as much of who he was and where he was and who we all are and why we all are, that was most admirable to me.
Exactly.
Because it was not necessary. He didn't have to.
No. He could have wallowed or felt sorry for himself, or and he wasn't ashamed.
Just sat there and spent years watching The Apprentice and whatever else our billionaire for-profit media overlords have for us to watch, but he didn't.
No, he did not. And I just, I think he still has family down here in L.A. But
a brother, perhaps, yeah.
I think a brother, because I know when his mom passed, he was going to be coming down here, and he was trying to get Rick and I to, but it just didn't. With my schedule and Rick, we just couldn't make it work. so I just, and if anything's happening up in Berkeley, I can't do anything right now. I'm just, my life is stretched so thin right now that is just, I'm not tired. Well, actually, I am. I haven't really been sleeping well. There's an underlying stress that I'm having, I'm, training and all this sort of stuff. But I have a situation, and I called, how you think why would you know about this? Okay, so, because you're not black, so, okay, so anywho, I have a friend. I think I talked to you about this friend, and I guess we're no longer friends because I called him out, and it wasn't even in a bad way. I called him out on his privilege, and his racism, and not even that racism. It was just whatever, and it wasn't no big deal. But whatever it was, whatever I said, he got. So basically, long story short, we haven't spoken in 2 weeks, and. And it's like, and I don't even know, seriously, I really don't know what it was. I mean, because there's a whole lot of conversations going on that day. And, so, you know me well enough to know. I don't let people into my life, especially in real life. I mean, this person basically was kind of like my ride or die bitch. And so, especially, privileged white men, I just, but he was gay, he's gay, so you get kind of a, pass. But when he got all, like I said, just whatever the case may be, but I did not realize how badly the situation affected me. Because, like I think I told you guys last week, I got sick. I got an outbreak of shingles.
Yeah.
And I didn't train last week, or, I barely trained. I did finally run again on Saturday, but basically for 4 days, 3 or 4 days, I didn't do anything. And I ate like I was an idiot. So, so consequently, I gained weight last week when I weighed in. I mean, it was only a pound, but still, with all the work that I've been doing, a pound is a pound. And, and so this afternoon, I did my swim. And because I really haven't swam in a while either. And Bob, it was just, if you've done stuff for, if you've gotten into a habit and you get a routine and you're doing really well in that routine. But when that routine stops, and especially if you've gone a long while, at least a few days without doing said routine, and then when you try to do it again after a week or so, it's like starting all over. If you could have seen the way I was trying, and it's not like, it's not like your girl is not, I'm not Mark Spitz as it is anyway. So I was floundering in the pool today.
See, I wasn't going to use that word.
I just realized what I said. Okay. I caught that. You would have, okay, I got you. And like, why wouldn't you use it? Oh, duh. Okay, I got you. Okay. So yes. And my coach was
bottom
like,
of the pool,
what's wrong? Yeah, exactly. My coach was like, Tracy, what's happening with you? Because I know what you can do. And he knew I was sick. And he knew, and at that very moment, I started crying. It wasn't like, an ugly cry thing, but I was so upset with myself that I let this person get into my head and fuck with my shit. And a white man at that. That really pissed me off. And it's just like, how in the world, why in the world did I let some asshole get into my head at such a level that it fucked with me and fucked with my training? But then again, like I said, I don't have a lot. I have you guys. I have my Horn family, and I love you guys with every fiber of my being. But again, this person is somebody that is in my life, here in person.
Well, it all kind of goes back to that old saying: when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Believe them. And so it's like, and the worst, that's not even the worst part, because, you know, I told you guys I bought tickets for Hamilton, and I bought tickets for him and his husband. And and he hasn't paid me for these tickets. So I texted him. I'm like, so not only are you not speaking to me, but now I'm stuck with these tickets. Now, I found a way to get rid of them. I can get rid of them, but that's not the point. Because see, him and his husband, they probably you come in when the paychecks come in. Between the two of them, those motherfuckers are bringing in $500,000 a year. Probably anywhere between maybe $350,000 to $500,000 a year between the two of them. Jan and I are not. Jan makes good money. I don't. Okay? I drive a fucking cab in LA in an industry that is dying a slow, painful death. Okay? And I'm on disability. So I'm not balling. So for me to have, put out this kind of money and then you ghost me. See, this is when the ABW is coming out, and I'm getting more and more angry.
Let me ask something.
Yes, dear.
Are you absolutely, and I'm just asking, are you absolutely certain you got ghosted? I mean,
but see, here's the thing.
I mean, it could have been.
I'm trying to be a good person. I'm trying to be that. Was it pragmatic? I'm trying. Dan's ready to go up there and cut a motherfucker.
Could somebody have gotten sick? Could somebody be in the hospital? Well,
here's the question. Okay, so here's the deal. So this all happened not last Sunday, but the Sunday before last. Now, you know how it's, I'm trying to get the job for Weight Watchers, so I started, because they asked for shit on LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. So I did a LinkedIn profile, and I sent him a connect, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? He responded and we connected on LinkedIn. I know on Facebook he went out, so he's not in jail. He's not dead, and he's not sick. Like I said, I've been trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm still, because of who I am, Bob, because I'm famous for disappearing on people, as you guys know.
Yep.
You guys, know how long. I mean, what's the longest I've gone? Like months or a year. I think I disappeared once for almost a year. And you guys like, where the hell is Tracy? But again, so that's why, because Jan, like I said, Jan's ready to go and, roll up on his ass because, Jan's kind of a gangster when it comes to me on certain things. But again, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. But again, I've never been so
well,
hurt.
You can, Tracy. Sometimes you can try to give somebody the benefit of the doubt, but they will keep on and keep on and keep on and keep on telling you exactly who they are.
Exactly who they are.
And eventually,
you're just like, fuck it.
Right. Ain't worth it.
Just fucking keep it moving. And so that's basically, so as I'm in the pool this afternoon, like I said, I just could not make it work. I have been, so after the swim, I, called my coach on my way to talk to go get Penny. And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm doing better. And we talked, and he's like, look, I need you to get out of your head. I know you know that you can do this. You have swam 20 laps before. You can do this. You just let, people get it. He's like, and I know it's been a while since you swam. So you just need to get your confidence back. Because see, 2 weeks from Saturday is 2 weeks from Saturday is the triathlon. That part. And so I really think a lot of it is also is that the anticipation of this date looming, coming even closer into my consciousness is fucking with me as well. And, and I think it's just, I think we all do this. We as people, when we start making progress in one area or in our lives, I don't even know if I'm not even trying to self-sabotage, because if I was self-sabotaging, I wouldn't have even gone to work out today. But you get scared because this is entirely new for me, Bob. I've never done anything like this before in my entire life, ever. And I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie, I'm scared. But I know I can do it. I got you. And if
this is where we fire up the litany against fear. I know it just comes from a science fiction novel, but the fact of the matter is it's real. And
I'm scared as fuck. I'm sorry, I just am. And I know I can do this. I know I can do this, but there's that small voice inside of my head that keeps telling me that I can't.
Yeah, but you
can't. And I hate that bitch.
Right.
I hate that bitch so much.
So just check this out. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me, and when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. I had Ferg. I actually had Ferg can still repeat that by heart.
Can you send that to me so I can remember it?
Sure. You got nothing. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're gonna do. And
I do know that, and I know that,
and there's no such thing as failure in this either.
No, because I've come so far.
Right, and you're gonna keep going. But one of the uglier parts of the process is that these things have plateaus, and the plateaus hurt. The plateaus hurt almost worse than starting out at the beginning, because you wind up, you feel like, I'm never going to get off this plateau. I'm just going to and not liking the plateaus and being unnerved by the plateaus is actually a good sign, because it means that you have an inner will and an inner drive to keep on climbing. You see?
I know. Wait, were we supposed to be talking about politics?
Well, yeah, I mean, it happens here from time to time. It's like Brother Deacon Asa said, even if you can't do it, you have still tried and given it your best. And by giving it your best, you will succeed, because you are doing things others cannot and never will.
Just the fact that
Lee in New York says winning comes from trying. You are already a winner.
Oh my God! I don't even know how it just came over me. I've just been sorry, y'all. Usually the one that.
Hey, it's prayer meeting Wednesday. I mean,
Oh, that's right. It's prayer meeting Wednesday, so I'm allowed to.
Yeah. You're absolutely allowed. Testify.
And like I said, and I'm a woman of faith. I am. And like I said, I think I talked about this before, about when I got scared in the pool and I turned over on my back and I just floated. And that's what I do. I just got to learn how to float. Not learn how, but just remember when things get crazy and just overwhelming, just turn around on your back and float, bitch, float. And that's what my coach was yelling at me. Well, not yelling, fussing. He doesn't yell at me because I'm a black woman and he's a white man, and he knows I'll stump a mud hole in his ass the size of the Mississippi if he kept fucking with me. So he has a whole different way of talking to me than he does for the rest of the people in the group. But whenever I do swim and I just kind of stop, he just gives me that Tracy, then I'm like, that's my cue. Turn over on your back and float. And when you compose yourself, turn back over and swim. And so I know I'm going to be fine. It's just, like I said, breathing and but like I said, I didn't realize, usually when people fuck around with me, it's just, watered off a duck's back. I could give a fuck, but this hurt me. Because, like I said, I don't usually, y'all know more about me than most. And because I could trust you. And he's one of the few people that I trusted with not so much because I'm not stupid. There's only certain information that I trust people with. And I trusted him with some information that I know, like I said, that if he said anything, I know it's not going to come back on me. You know what I'm saying? So, but still, again, I trusted him with more stuff than I trust with the average motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? But
well, you just got a note from Megan. She said, "Don't diss the litany against fear. I've used it to stave off panic attacks, and it's worked. Tell Tracy to give that voice telling her she can't the finger, get angry, and prove it wrong." And then adds, "By the way, racist assholes are never worth it. Fuck them."
Right. Oh, like you said, it's those things when, again, and I know a lot of the members of the Horn family are what I refer to, lovingly as the melanin challenge, or white people. But like I said, I don't have a lot of white.
Damn it, pink.
Pink.
I ain't got any white on me at all. But I got a shit ton of pink.
Pink. I don't have a lot of white friends because whenever I say something about, they're all that they consider themselves woke, about this Trayvon Martin, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, that's a phrase you're never going to catch me using.
If you do, I'll cut you. But when you say or mention something that they have said or any action they have taken or what have you, they say, yeah, that's no. Now, the cool white person would say, fuck, really? Was I really fucked up what I said? And my response is yes, but thank you for acknowledging it. But when you get all angry and shit on me, I can't with you. And I think what's most upset me is that I'm like, this motherfucker pulled the wool over my eyes. I'll let you in, and like you said, when the person tells you who they are, believe them. So, there's just certain things that, people are overlook a lot of shit. And
yeah,
again,
and as a corollary to that, let me heartily reject a concept that has been blathered about out there, and there's a lot of reasons to admire Michelle Obama, but this bullshit of when they go low, we go high,
bullshit.
Nope. Cut them off at the knees and stomp their ass for being short.
Look, let me tell you, I want to be so low that I can play a handball up against the curb. What?
No, yeah, precisely. So,
I mean, we can't go high. We can't afford to go high because these motherfuckers don't know how to play high.
How are you going to go high against Donald Trump? Because, right. And so, all the business around Bloomberg is disgusting. I mean, he has a disgusting past. But I will vote for him if I must.
But if
But here's the thing. I give credit where credit is due. And the credit due on this is that he knows how to slap back, not clap back, but to slap back.
Oh no, he slapped back.
And it's taking a toll on him.
He knows. I mean, he will slap. I mean, and I know this is probably definitely not the politically correct thing to say, so I'm about to say it anyway. This Bloomberg, not like you said, slap back. I'm talking pimp slap. I'm talking with all the rings and everything, and coming up from the ground and pow with the backhand slap. I'm not even talking about the front. I'm talking about straight up backhand. On and like you said, he knows what he's doing. And I'm, again, I got into I told you I went for a long run on Saturday, and no, because I haven't talked to you since Friday on the front porch. So I went on a long run with a friend of mine who is a birdie bro, but and we got into this, we've had this discussion, how we talk about whoever the nominee is. As long as there's a D behind his name, I'm voting for him. And so he's like, well, I don't know, because what if Bloomberg and another billionaire, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Aaron, listen to what I'm saying to you. I said, white man, listen, you have that privilege of saying, I don't know, and blah, blah, blah. People like me, I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm queer. I have a mental illness, which means I have a what is it? I can't even, whatever, with my health care. So my life is on fucking line. So I cannot, I need for you and all you other white people out there and, these, I can't, and blah, 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 vote for, in all good conscience, vote for somebody like Michael Bloomberg. Or it's conditional. Well, if maybe if Stacey Abrams, this is BP. Bitch, you can't be conditional. Who we vote for. That part. No other things. That's it.
Yeah. You disappeared for a minute. I thought I'd stepped on a cord or something, but I think you just passed from
No.
You went from one cell tower to another. But you can't be conditional. Well, it's like Steve in New York just said, when they go low, if we go high, they'll chop off our feet.
Right. And anything else they could get their hands on. So, but in any event, we don't have, again, this election come November, it's about my life. It's about whether or not I'm going to have a place in this country. Hold on a minute. I want to take a minute with this if we can.
Okay. Because I see, and the man's lived his life with cameras running in front of him, and he's made policy decisions and policy declarations. And that, there are things out there like referring to trans people as it.
It's it.
Yeah. And these things give me. And then there's the fact that he's never been a goddamn Democrat, Michael Bloomberg.
That part. And again,
but wait. I want to get all the way through this because you're. The last several days, just as and social media is not the world, but you see things and you're like, and there seems to be a concerted. Oh, dang it, Tracy. There seems to be and I really hopefully she'll call back. There seems to be a concerted effort to. And some people will admit, our goal is to drive Bloomberg from the race. And, okay, fine, that's what you want to do. But please understand, you can't drive somebody with $55 billion anywhere. You can't drive him out of the race because he knows his money is going to go further than your Twitter account or your Facebook shitposting or whatever. And so I found it interesting to hear Tracy say, no conditions, no conditions. Whoever's running against Trump has to get our votes, and we have to be, and I presume we have to be enthusiastic about it. Tracy just sent a message, stupid phone. I think Tracy got a new phone. I don't know. But I think that is deserving of a little bit more discussion. And there's breaking news this evening, and it's heartbreaking news. More heartbreaking news. There's been a mass shooting, and it may not be over yet, in an area near or a suburb of Frankfurt, Germany. So you can't put this one we can't put it on the NRA. But what they're reporting is that the shooting broke out at a hookah bar, and I think they said Hanau. And it's unclear how many were shooting, and apparently they then left there and went and shot somewhere else. God. So we'll just keep up with it as best we can. There it is. 8 people killed in shooting near Frankfurt. Gunman killed 8 people on Wednesday night in a shooting near Frankfurt at 10 p.m. local time. Police are left guessing about the motive and the number of shooters who remain at large. I guess they're, 7 hours? So it would have taken place about, 3-4 hours ago. Downtown Hanau opened fire on patrons of a local hookah lounge, then fled in a dark vehicle and started shooting in another part of town. Police still don't know of any motive, and they don't know how many shooters were involved. And you can bet the filthy right wing in Germany will be on this like a duck on a June bug. Randy in PA said, I need to hear that anti-fear litany again. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Brother Deacon Asa says, as to the Hanau shooting, I'm putting my money on an Anders Breivik copycat. Wouldn't be surprised. The fascists are on the march. Oh, God, they are. And hey, thanks. We were perilously close to laying a complete goose egg this evening. But Todd in South Carolina stand jumped in. Thank you, Todd. And took us from and so we at least got on the board. So thank you, Todd. Thanks a bunch, and that'll that takes us down to 360 to go for the evening. And Well, are you gonna watch the pageant? I'm so sick of these things because I watch them and I keep coming back to the distinct sensation that there's really no content there, and that they're vehicles for advertising. Now, MSNBC has it tonight, so I don't know who the moderators are. Jesus Christ, if they let Chuck Todd or Chris Matthews anywhere near it, that's journalistic malpractice. Which I guess in a way almost guarantees that they will be. Ugh. Got a couple of it's a kind of an update. God damn it. Stephen New York says Joke Toad is one of them. Well, of course he is. So that means this will have all the gravity of the throw the dart at the balloon game on the Carnival Midway. Patrons of a hookah lounge, asks Lady B, want to wager what ethnicity they were targeting? We can't let Germany fall into fascism again. And no, but one of the things that there was kind of a disturbing development. The far right, slightly watered down version of the fascist party in Germany, AfD, Alternative für Deutschland, managed to play kingmaker and select a governor the other day, and it threw German politics into more than a little bit of chaos. Remember, though, all this, fascism is definitely on the rise, whether it be India or Germany or Greece or Italy or the United States of America. But the purpose is different this time. It's not that whole world domination thing. It is an orchestrated means of attacking the very idea of liberal democracy. Little L liberal, or big L, depending on how you want to define it. Classic liberal democracy in the Western European and American sense of the word. It is an effort to bolster the rising nationalist interests of a certain beaten up, run down, tottering economy, former superpower. In a couple of other developments. I found it interesting that, among other things, Dana Rohrabacher, who is at the center of the Assange skullduggery, he put out a statement and saying, at no time did I offer Julian Assange anything from the president because I had not spoken with the president about this issue at all. However, when speaking with Julian Assange, I told him that if he could provide me information and evidence about who actually gave him the DNC emails, I would then call on President Trump to pardon him. That's kind of, no, it's not kind of, that's an admission. All he's trying to do is give plausible deniability to Nitwit Nero on the front end. But he's also pitching the idea that he has the power to get the president of the United States, that corrupt nightmare human being, to issue a pardon. Jesus. Whew. And there are people who are hollering, impeach him again over this. And he may become the first twice impeached president. And now with Julian Assange back in the news, it's interesting that lawyers for Chelsea Manning went back into federal court today and filed a motion in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia in Alexandria and said, shucks, just let her out. Incarceration is not serving its only permissible purpose, namely to coerce the testimony of the witness in question, namely Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning is in lockup because she defied a subpoena. And that's what's supposed to happen when you defy a subpoena. Without saying the quiet part out loud, the lawyers for Chelsea Manning were basically saying, well, hell, we don't do that. You didn't do that with anybody else who ignored any subpoenas. She's been locked up since March of 2019, almost a year. The maximum she can be held is 18 months. She has immunity from prosecution. Nothing she says before the grand jury can be used against her in any way. She's also getting fined $1,000 a day. And that's somehow being complained of as unfair. But this is civil contempt, in which the central fact is that the contemnor, the person in contempt, holds the keys to her own cell. Now, the reason she says she is not cooperating is because she doesn't like grand juries. Which displays rather a shallow understanding of the process, sadly. She could be out tomorrow. She issued a statement today. No matter how much you punish me, I will remain confident in my decision. I've been separated from my loved ones, deprived of sunlight, and could not even attend my mother's funeral. It is easier to endure these hardships now than to cooperate to win back some comfort and live the rest of my life knowing that I acted out of self-interest and not principle. Well, the idea of the grand jury is enshrined in the Constitution of the United States. It is a cornerstone. No person may be put at hazard of life or liberty unless they have been indicted by a grand jury in the federal system. But, well, seems like she's getting some terrible advice. Yeah, hey. Oh, wait. There's a possible option. Julius Geezer pardoned Joe Arpaio on a contempt charge. Now, this is not criminal contempt. This is civil contempt. Could a pardon suffice the same there? One wonders if maybe an offer similar to that made to Julian Assange may have been made to her. Don't know. Meanwhile, the heat begins to, or continues to ramp up. Rochester, New York area man has been taken under arrest. He was all upset about impeachment. And so he decided to threaten to kill Senator Charles Schumer, Minority Leader Charles Schumer, and Representative Adam Schiff, in a further example of the ongoing attempts at stochastic terrorism as perpetrated by the President of the United States. 57-year-old Salvatore Lippa II was arrested and charged with threatening to assault or murder a federal official on account of the performance of their official duties and interstate communication of a threat. He faces up to $250,000 in fines and up to 10 years in prison. Maybe Trump can pardon him too. Why not? We are in a constitutional crisis. And this is what it looks like to be in one. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Steve in New York says, isn't the pardon power only for crimes? I think then Arpaio must have been under criminal contempt. Well, that's easy enough fixed. The DOJ charges her with criminal contempt. Trump pardons her. And then she serves 6 more months and walks away scot-free, having thumbed her nose at the Constitution of the United States. Oh, well. So that's the program for this prayer meeting Wednesday. I hope you'll be around for Thorn in the Side Thursday. I've got the roses all pruned off, and we're nothing but thorns. Thanks to all of you who help keep the program on the air as subscribers via PayPal or Patreon, or as a la carte contributors, or both. Thank you to all of you who share your precious finite time engaged in the program. Thanks to our all-volunteer staff. Thanks to our news ninjas. Thank you, Brother Deacon Asa, headon.live. Thank you, John Fox in Australia. Thank you, Ben Birch, whiterosesociety.org. Thanks to the hardest-working, bravest people I know, the men and women of Coal River Mountain Watch, crmw.net. 20 years at the forefront of the struggle for human rights and environmental justice in Appalachia. And always, 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 Gina, it's all for you. Later, y'all.